Welcome to Locality's Making Bank podcast, where we continue our exploration of South Florida's entrepreneurial landscape with host Keith Costello, co-founder and CEO of Locality Bank. Sit back, relax, and let South Florida visionaries guide you on an entrepreneurial journey from tribulation to triumph, sharing the very stories that have shaped them.
Lil Roberts, welcome to Locality Bank's Making Bank podcast.
Love it. Thank you, Keith. It's an honor to be here with you today, and congratulations on this unbelievable bank.
Oh, thank you so much, Lil. And it's great to have you here as an entrepreneur. And you know, we've known each other for quite some time, and it's great to have you come on and be able to share your story with our audience. So, and you're helping small businesses, small medium-sized businesses, and you are one. So, you know, just like us, it's the same thing. Yeah. So
we all bleed small business, right? And we love it.
We want to help them.
Yes, 100%.
So let's start, just share a little bit. I always ask everybody, because it's fascinating to me, what inspires entrepreneurs to work so hard, take these risks, and, chase that dream. Share with me and our listeners, kind of like your upbringing and, where you're from and your family structure and that type of thing.
You bet. It's a bit of a, usually when people ask, I warn them because it's a little bit of a sad story. Okay. And maybe first I should share that I look at life as, for most people, a third of life is really, really good, a third is really, really bad, and a third is so-so. And so I was fortunate to get the really, really bad out of the way early in my life.
It's a great way to look at it.
And I'm in the really, really good part of my life. So with that, born into a family of 5 kids, I was fourth in line, and my dad died at the age of 10. My only living grandmother died the following year at 11. And then I lost 3 brothers before I turned 24, all through various tragedies. And so we grew up extremely poor, to where we didn't know, most of the time we didn't eat the last week of the month. And it was always the calculator out when you're grocery shopping to see what you can afford. And I think that it did 2 things for me in my life. And that is that, well, it did many things, but one, it built resilience. Because you have a choice, right? You have a choice that you get up and every day you look at it, is it going to be a positive day or a negative day? And you realize that that's a choice that you have to make every day when you get up, no matter how bad yesterday was or is, right? And then the second piece of it is that when you live through that kind of bad, no matter what happens to you, you can get through. And so things that other people may or may not look at as tough, you go, okay, I can get through that because the sun's going to shine again. The sun always shines. And sometimes we're in a little bit of a dark spot, but the sun always comes out. And so for me, early on in my journey, I knew that I just wanted to work really hard, and that if I worked really hard, I'd never go hungry. And so early day of working was just so I could eat, right? And so I started working full time at 14. And I think it's like a muscle and you build it. And so now, my whole career, I pretty much work 60, 70 hours a week, and you just do it. And I love business, and I love helping people, and I love having a stable environment, and I love being around like-minded individuals who are lifelong learners and just want to do the right thing.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that when Lil and I were talking before, she was like, well, because I usually ask people about their beginnings, and she was like, well, it's pretty bad. She's like, maybe I won't mention it. I'm like, no, share that. And I just want to say thank you, because that's so inspiring to me to hear you say that. And I'm sure that's inspiring to people who are listening.
Thank you.
To you say that. And your attitude.
Thank you.
In having dealt with that at an early age, and what that's the resilience and the strength and the, just drive that created, I'm sure has led to a lot of your success and your drive that you carry forward today.
Thank you. Builds intestinal fortitude, which I think is a good training ground for when you're an entrepreneur, as you know, Keith, right? On your third bank, as well as other endeavors, that you have to love to get up in the morning, go to work, and get your guts kicked in most days. Yeah. And I love that. And so, so it's what you do.
Yeah,
and
my son looks at me funny some days, but anyway.
Yeah, right. It is.
It's hard to explain. So so you started working, and then where did your, I saw you actually worked on ATMs as a banker. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, great research on your part.
Was that one of your first jobs?
Well, my first adult job, right?
Okay.
So it was my first adult job because I was 14. I worked at Carvel. Then I went and worked at Winn-Dixie for a lot of years. I'm aging myself here. And then actually I was a cocktail waitress so I didn't go to a college. I wish I would have. And we can talk about that later on. But I went to a technical school. When I came out, I had the equivalent of an AS, and NCR hired me, and I was working on bank teller machines. And then ATMs started to become really popular. And I installed the very first ATM in Broward County, and actually the state of Florida, in a Publix.
Wow.
And so, on another day we can chat those stories, but it was a lot of fun.
Wish I had a picture of that. We could put it up in the bank.
There you go. Oh, I used to climb in the safes and wire the 220. And back then it was displays were CRT. So you rack the ATM back and you're blindly adjusting the screen because it's fuzzy and, getting shocked and,
Isn't it crazy? You think about you think about banks today. We were talking about this earlier about how industries morph and change. And, you think about where banks were technology wise back then and what's happened today with fintechs and the technology advances of them. It's incredible. I mean, you have to really be like, wow, because you've seen it from the dark ages kind of technology.
Are you saying I'm old, Keith?
No, I'm saying I'm
just
old.
kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Look, we're both right there, right? But look, it's been an exciting journey for all of us with the technology and how things have advanced. And I mean, we'll chat into that hopefully before we end today.
Sure.
That we're living in the best time of our lives, and geez, I wish I was 25. There's so much opportunity.
I think you are 25 right here, which is where it's important to be 25, right?
Thank you. Absolutely.
So tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. So you were working, and then when did you get the idea that, hey, I might want to start a business? Like, how did that occur to you?
Happenstance. And so what happened was, from NCR, somebody offered me, NCR had offered me to go and teach in Ohio at their Central Technical Education Center. And I couldn't go because we had just lost another brother. And my mom had said, please don't go. And so I said, okay, well, what can I do? And a friend was making a lot of money in sales. And I said, I'll try that. So I went and I tried sales, straight commission, not like today where there's bases and all that. It was straight commission, right? Hardcore. And so I went into selling copiers, and one thing led to another. And I had an opportunity to build the division of desktop publishing, which was changing the way print was happening from typesetting. Okay. And my engineering background helped me with that. And so I went to work for that company and built that department, that division. I built it to $1.5 million. And back in the 80s, that was, big, right? To build it like that. And then I said, you know what, from selling to business owners and seeing that the only difference between a business owner and not is really guts. So everybody's capable. You have to want it. You have to realize what you're doing. So hopefully they don't listen to podcasts and everybody goes out and quits tomorrow and go, oh, I can have a business. There's a ton of sacrifice, but the real core of it is do you have what it takes to be able to still get up every day when it's really hard? And every business owner and every entrepreneur, and there's a difference between the two, that you speak to will tell you that, you go through some really dark patches, right? Mm-hmm. And I see those as opportunities, right? It's easy when it's easy. Everybody can do it. So that was the first business, and I've had 8 or 9 businesses. I think this is the 8th or 9th. I'd have to go back, but anything from systems integration to product businesses to manufacturing businesses. And in manufacturing, I bought a few that I bolted on to the one that I had. But yeah, exciting, fun. But Zendu, which is where I'm at today and have been for the last 7 years, that business, I was extremely intentional about what my next business was going to be. Okay. And I did a framework on it, and to there's a saying, everybody looks good at 3 in the, at the end of the night, 3 a.m. You got to know what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And so For me, I said, a lot of my businesses have been happenstance, or I bought an existing business and turned it around, or just picked something because it sounded interesting.
Wasn't really intentional, just kind of happened and was an opportunity.
Right. It was an opportunity, and I didn't, I wanted the next chapter of my life knowing that, this may be my last business, although I have 2 more I'd like to do.
I love that.
And it's a sickness,
I'm planning
right?
to work till I'm 125, so maybe we'll both be going. It's just,
100% biohacking. Like now we've lived long enough for biohacking.
Yeah.
So look, we're going to be 200.
Exactly.
So I wanted it to be very intentional. And so I built a scorecard, and on the scorecard, I said, okay, what do I love? And I love small business owners. And I love talking to small business owners. I love being involved in small business. Every business out there started as small business, right? Walmart started as one. Starbucks started as one. People think that all these big Fortune 500 businesses just, were born as a big Fortune 500. No, usually the overnight success is 20 years.
Right. Or 30 years or 40 years, right? It takes a while.
100%.
Yeah.
So the framework had several things. It led with small business, led with I wanted to change an analog industry to make it better for both the people in the industry and the people the industry served. And I wanted to be venture capital backed because I wanted to stretch myself. I'm a lifelong learner. And I wanted it to have the capacity of the business and the idea to scale to 100 million ARR. Not for the money. I'm sure I won't be at the helm when the business is that large. They'll put somebody polished and properly.
Like Ryan.
Yes, exactly. Ryan will be in. But
Be running both our businesses probably.
you're going to be busy, Ryan. And so then I started putting ideas against that scorecard. And I looked at what's an analog industry, and legal, insurance, accounting, analog industries. This is 2017. And I had firsthand experience with that it's painful for both the practitioners in the industry because there wasn't technology that helped them to do their job in a better way, like in a way that allowed them to spend customer-facing time. And for the business owners, they couldn't get their financials on time. And if you don't know your numbers, it's like just, being a rudderless boat.
Yeah.
So.
And so that was the birth of Zendu. So you created that idea and that concept, and then where did you go with it?
So I went up, hopefully.
No, I mean, how did you get it going?
How did I get it going?
What's the advice because a lot of people have ideas and they don't know how to execute. So
Great
how
question.
did you execute?
So here's what I did, and this is a great question. So one, I belong to EO. EO is is called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a worldwide organization, 20,000 entrepreneurs around the world. And I belong to our chapter in South Florida, and I still do, and there's 320 or 30 members. And
We've had a few of them on, by the way.
You have? Yeah. And it's amazing,
Yep.
right? Because and you need that support no matter what organization it happens to be, but find your tribe or find your peer group and be sure to spend time with them. So first thing I did is I said, okay, this is I ran numbers and I sliced and diced it every which way I could. And I said, can this concept become a $100 million business? And then when I felt pretty confident that it could, then I said, let me start at the end. Why would it break? Why would it not? What could be all the things that could happen that would cause this business not to be, right? Mm-hmm. To not be able to reach its goal. And so I went through all that. And then after I went through both of those things and I said, yep, I'm going to do it. I'm all in. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to go for it. Before I put the first dollar into it, and I put about $500,000 to just start building the technology, just, blindly, right? Like I had an idea. I built out a concept document of what I think it would do and how to do it. And then did some market testing, which we can talk about. But then what I did is I took it to a couple of friends that I knew would rip it apart. And so I didn't take it to people that would say, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, my God, it's going to be amazing. I took it to people that were going to go, you're absolutely freaking ridiculous. It's not going to work. People that I would think that they could rip it apart and say, it's not going to work, no good. And I took it to 3 or 4 of them. And when they spent, one of them, Oscar, who's a dear friend. Oscar, I spent 4 hours with him in his man cave. And at the end of it, and before I went, he said, bring me the concept as a single concept, as a license concept, and as a franchise concept. Bring all three. So it was a lot of work to put together everything and go through all that. And then I went and presented it to him. And after 4 hours, he said, I think you have something.
Wow. So that's great advice. And initially he was negative?
Well, it wasn't that he was negative. Oscar had, after he had exited one of his businesses, and he just recently exited another. And I also took it to Colin, another friend, and same thing. He was somebody that would think about it differently and would find all the holes in it.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh no!" When actually Colin said, "When you're ready to go, I want to invest in it." And so with Oscar, he had looked at so many businesses and had done so much due diligence that he had a really strong muscle of where were all the gaps of why a business would fail, where were the blind spots. So really take it to your friends that have that muscle of being able to see blind spots that others don't.
Right.
And so then after that point, then I went out on the journey of, okay, what do we need to do to bring it to life?
And then you went out, had to raise capital. And
before I raised capital, first $500,000, built out the early technology, and I went and I did a few trade shows to see, my first thesis of would it work or not. This is 2017. The world it was digital, but not as digital. It's exponentially becoming more digital, right? The world is. And so the world wasn't as digital. And I said, accounting. Typically, people want to be able to get in the car and drive over to their accountant and see them face to face. Would people trust having somebody do their books that they never met and in another state? And so that was my thesis of a potential reason why it wouldn't work. And so I said, okay, what do I need to do to prove that? So then I went to a couple states and I did trade shows. And in the trade shows, I picked up a couple customers in every trade show.
So you did kind of a test, like a little MVP. Let's see if it works.
100%. So
Very smart.
I do everything: idea, crawl, walk, run.
I've heard that before from you.
Yes.
Just at lunch, I think.
Yes. But, ask any of my team. They know we build product that way. We test things that way. And what happens is if it is a product-backed founder, so if it's somebody that knows coding, they lots of times will never launch their product because they're waiting for it to be perfect. And you have to be able to fail and fail fast, as you know the saying, and you have to be able to iterate quickly. And if you can do that, think about your most successful businesses. Look at Bezos' business. He morphed, right? Yeah. He still kept the same thread of he wants to be an online bookstore, but he was able to iterate.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with Apple. Yeah. So you have to be able to. You have to be strong enough to say if your baby's ugly, it's ugly, right? And most people will never say that, right? Like
That's a favorite expression of Corey LeBlanc, our chief technology officer and co-founder. He says it all the time.
Yes.
Tell me my baby's ugly.
And that's what I say. I love it. I say, look, when I was pitching and talking to investors, and I still say it, tell me if I'm fat and ugly. I can lose the weight, can't help the looks, but at least I know how I stand in your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really, I remember also getting, you'll have a lot of people tell you, yeah, that's a great idea. And they're really not doing you any favors, right? The people who really look at it, really dig in and then say, what about this? What about that? Or here's what's not going to work. That's so valuable to get people. And those are people that are, obviously, you have to have some kind of relationship with them to get them to invest that time and energy and really looking at your idea. So that's great, and that's a testament to you that you have those kind of relationships.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, relationships are key, right? We were just talking about it at lunch.
Yeah.
And we know each other through a relationship.
Sure.
And then we've been able to maintain our relationship. We don't see each other often, but when we do, we hold each other in the highest regard, and we never look for anything from each other. We look on how we can help each other. And when you surround yourself with people that live their life in that thread, in that, that they just want to do the right thing and help people along the way. And it's not what's in it for them. It's how do you just help somebody on their journey.
Incredible. Now, I know that you have, so you talked about the 3 stages of life, like, and now it's like you're like so optimistic. I mean, we were talking earlier about the future and all of the opportunities that are ahead of us. And, what are you looking at in terms of not just, well, you can talk about Zendu, but also other opportunities that you're excited about?
So I'm extremely excited for the people that are growing up today and what is at their fingertips. So if you think about what the digital footprint has done, it has democratized everything. So when I grew up in a bad neighborhood, poor, didn't have access to learning. When you're born, I believe that you're born with a certain level of a mind, right? Like either you learn easy or you don't learn easy. And if you're somebody that has the ability to learn and that has the thirst for learning, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you didn't have an opportunity to have access to learning. Today, every single person has access to learning. So you think about any kid anywhere, they can learn anything they want to. And I don't know if you've been following Polymarket, but Polymarket is an unbelievable business, and it's owned by a 26 or 27-year-old kid that grew up in Hell's Kitchen in Harlem.
Wow.
Went to high school there. This kid's so freaking brilliant. You can listen to him on a podcast or do some research on him. Just unbelievable. And so I think that I know that technology has given everybody the ability to watch YouTube to learn what they want to. So I'm excited for the world as it sits today. We're on the cusp of AI. There's good and bad to AI. Learn it. Don't have an opinion and go, oh, it's bad, so I'm not going to learn it. You need to learn it. And when you learn it, you'll have opportunities. And what I mean by learn about AI, just do some reading, do some base level reading. What is it? What does it do? How does it accelerate my life? Where can I use it safely? Where should I, have my blind spots to not be scammed financially because of AI? Mm-hmm. Or how do I protect my digital footprint? So I'm excited.
Oh, great ideas. So also with all that, and then how does Zendu fit into, what is the future you have mapped out for Zendu over the next few years?
Blue skies. Our mission is we want to help 50,000 businesses by 2030.
Wow. And
so we want to personally touch and help 50,000. Now, that doesn't mean that 50,000 businesses are going to pay us $1. There's many times when we're not a right fit for somebody because maybe their journey is just starting out. And so they shouldn't have us do their books. They should still do the books themselves, but we'll give them help. We'll give them thought leadership on the stages for them. And that when they're ready, we hope that they come back to us. We have pure SaaS products. That's a product called Insights. That's a dashboard to let them know that if they're personally doing their books, are they accurate?
Yeah, we're going to offer that to some of our customers.
I love it.
Which thank you for letting us do that. Actually, it's a great service.
Thank you for the opportunity. And that's going to help us reach our goal of helping 50,000 people.
That's awesome.
And 50,000 businesses. And I love to help businesses in the South Florida area because this is where we live. And just as well, we love to help them all across America.
Right.
Our customers are in 48 states and 13 countries. And today we're at 1,200, right? So 1,200 to 50,000, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal, as they say.
Yeah. Well, and I think about the people that we deal with, because we have a lot of small businesses that we work with. And one of the biggest issues or challenges, I should say, that we deal with as a bank trying to lend money to small businesses is the lack of good financial information. And it's, so getting that information, and I think a lot of business owners don't realize, they start out and they're not really, maybe mom's doing the books and dad's working and, finally they hire a couple more people and then they realize they need a bank loan. And it's like, well, You can't use that notebook, or, maybe you got like QuickBooks that you've jumbled around and doesn't balance. And, so anyway, that I think is I see that as a huge service for the type of people that we work with.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And we hope we can help a lot of them if they'd like. We have, 25% of all business owners are behind under books, and they carry frustration and shame, and sometimes it causes marital problems because they're off the grid and they can't get loans. They can't even go get a house loan if their business books aren't in order, if they're self-employed or their taxes aren't caught up. And we understand that. And so, we're going to help them in the best way we can to be. And I could tell you story after story of it. My whole team are heart-led individuals that'll run into a burning building, and they love small business owners. We're always hiring. So if people know accountants that they hear on this podcast, people that know how to do accounting and for bookkeeping and for businesses, please apply. Please come see us and apply. We're 23 team members just on the accounting side of it. Okay. And then we have 4 team members in tax. But, we're going to grow to be 250 team members here in South Florida.
Wow.
And we'll eventually, expand our footprint across the U.S. into other offices. And we're also looking for acquisitions. So if you don't mind, I'll put a quick plug that,
plug away.
If there's CPAs or bookkeeping service companies that are looking for an exit, call me. Please.
What's your number?
My number is 954-612-2297. That's my cell. So I'm usually in back-to-back meetings, and text me and say, hey, I heard you on Locality Keith's podcast, and I'm interested in a job, or I'm interested in selling my CPA practice or my bookkeeping practice. But please, feel free, text 954-612-2297.
We love doing the shameless plugs here on the podcast.
And how many people will give their cell phone number?
Exactly. Well, actually, they do on here. We encourage them to. And
that's a testament to you because, right? Well, and look, we're South Florida. So no matter what community you're in, you have to help your community.
Right.
And, rising tides raises all boats, and, never worry about competition. As business owners, I see people get caught up in their competition. I talk to my competition. Never worry about your competition. It's big enough. Australia has 5 million people. We have 350 million people.
Right.
So
I'm with you on that. I mean, there's so much, especially, we're blessed to be in South Florida, right? Yeah. I mean, look at how the economy is here. There's so much business. Yes. I talk to bankers all over the country too. And, some of these small banks, I was talking to a guy today, his bank's been around for like 50 years. And it's in the Panhandle. It's 200 million in assets. It has been forever.
Right.
And, our bank is ready. We're hitting 300 in 3 years.
Wow.
And
congrats.
But that's the difference, right? It's not because, I'm wonderful and he's not. It's because of the market he's in.
Right.
He's in they just don't have the economy that we have here. And
buy them. Keith, buy them.
Well, I think we're in paradise right here in Broward County. I want to double down right here.
I love it.
And just, I want to get every small business here and take care of them. And then maybe we can look at somewhere else, helping other people, because there's just so many here, and so many are, now I'm talking about myself, which I shouldn't.
No, please. Because look, we have a shared passion, small business.
There's so many here that don't, that are not being well taken care of by wherever they are. And it amazes me how hard it is to get somebody to move a relationship. You probably face the same thing with some of the people that you deal with too. I mean, they're unhappy, but inertia is a powerful force. And it's hard for people to make changes of anything, right? So anyway, I know I got to get you out of here. Did you have something else you want to say quick? Because you look like I cut you off.
No, not at all. Okay. I mean, look, we could talk all day because what an exciting world we live in, right?
Absolutely.
We're in South Florida, which is an incredible market. Yeah. Sure, it's changing. If you've been here for 20, 30 years, like I would imagine you and I both have, and so we didn't have traffic before then. But when you look at opportunity, and when you look at opportunity and you look at the forefront of where we're at with AI, with decentralized finance, with crypto, with biotech. All of these technologies are unique for the time of our lives. Kids born today will not drive, right? It will be autonomous driving.
Right.
Waymo will pick them up.
Yeah. it'll, like I was talking about the elevator on the last with Javier on the last podcast. You know, you think about like when people used to be driven in an elevator there was somebody in that elevator. And when they started, like when you had to go and push your own buttons, people would not ride in elevators.
Right.
They were scared to get into an elevator. You know, so it's almost the same thing with the self-driving cars, right? It's in 20 years, it's going to be like getting into an elevator is for us now.
It'll be in probably 3 to 5.
Oh, 3 to 5.
Because you know why?
I hope.
So, well, think about how technology exponentially changes things. So it used to take, the curve was something like 7 years, the adoption curve, right? Now it's like 2 years. Like, look at ChatGPT. In 1 week, they had 1 million people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was so, like, I mean, like it's almost like you remember certain things, and like everybody remembers the first time they saw ChatGPT, right? You were like, oh my God, like this is incredible. So,
right. And look at Optimus.
I promised I was going to get you out of here on time.
Thank you.
So we got to do the lightning round real quick.
Okay.
So this will be a quick one. What is your favorite book?
Between two. Blink from Malcolm Gladwell or Leadership and Self-Deception by Arbinger Institute.
Wow. Is there a song that's like your theme song?
Not a theme song, but I'll tell you, one of the old songs I love is In Through the Outdoor.
Okay.
Led Zeppelin. In Through the Outdoor, right?
That's
you
great.
just turn that thing up loud and you go. Or Bad Company for a card ride.
Yeah.
Long card ride.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know the best piece of, I've received so much great advice, and always find mentors but what I would say to others is don't write the end of the story. Never write the end of the story.
Nice. Yeah. I love that one. I live that too. So AI, we talked about, you're obviously optimistic about it.
Beyond incredibly, like just ridiculous.
And if you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Well, not to be religious, of course, I'd say God, because that would just be fascinating. You know, that's a super interesting one. If I could have dinner with anyone, and I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm fascinated by how Steve Jobs' mind works, even more so than Elon Musk.
Wow, interesting. And you know, have you ever heard of the book Becoming Steve Jobs?
No.
So it's interesting, and just to digress a second, you know, so there's all these stories about Steve Jobs, what a jerk he was, how hard he was on people. He would, you know, belittle everybody. Apparently later in his life, he morphed into like a level 5 leader. Wow. And most people don't know that. That's actually when most of his success occurred. And so it's the book is Becoming Steve Jobs. I haven't read it, but I just heard that story recently. Wow. And it made me want to read it because I always was like, how is he so successful if he's such a jerk? Or how was he ever? Right. But that explains it to me. So
yes. I thank you. And it's the mind. Like I'm interested in the mind and how people overcome, right? And then look at Andrea Bocelli. Yeah. Right? He was originally an attorney with that great gift that he has.
Yeah.
Plus, so
incredible.
I would like to have dinner with him as well.
So speaking of food, what's your favorite local restaurant?
Rise Sushi in Boca.
Wow.
Best sushi place.
Okay. What's something you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for every day. Like I'm grateful for every day.
You're in that 1/3 right now, that 1/3 of the best of your life. I love 100%. That. I'm going to think about that a lot. I'm going to use that one. Who's someone that you admire and why?
Another one that's so tough. I'll tell you just because he's on my mind right now. I admire Brad Tuckman, who's building the fort, which is going to be the most amazing place in Fort Lauderdale out of Snyder Park. And I admire him for many reasons. One, his mind's brilliant and just so creative, but he didn't have to do that project. And that project is going to be so impactful for so many people, for pickleball and for socializing and for fitness. And I've just watched him over the last 2 years go through the meat grinder with all the things you have to go through as you build a business. And it is it's a project beyond all projects.
Yeah. So that's how we met, actually, was through Brad, and having, you know, and understanding that process that he went through with so many people against like taking that part of the park and using it for a great purpose.
Right. When it was seaweed. It was seaweed.
I remember touring it with him, and so I agree. He's quite a guy. What is your favorite way to stay healthy? Because you got to make it to 125.
200. Pickleball. Pickleball.
Okay.
I'm incredibly competitive.
Excellent. What's a fear that you have overcome?
Heights. So I went and hiked the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
And skydived.
Wow.
To get over it.
Wow. That's one way to overcome a fear. You went all in. All right. And speak of all in, I guess you've played poker with
Chamath from All In at the All In Summit in Miami. And I made it to one of the four tables, and he was the bestie that was at my table. And so I got the opportunity to play a few rounds of poker with him.
So finally, you did mention your cell phone number. What is your email address in case people want to reach out by email? Lil.Roberts, ROBERTS @zendu.com. And if anybody's listening and is interested in potentially becoming a customer or talking to us about their books, please reach out to sales@zendu.com and feel free. It's XENDOO.
Right, DOO, like the letter OO, Oscar.com.
Great. So thank you so much, Lil, for being here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Locality's Making Bank podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to catch the latest episodes, and visit localitybank.com today to learn more about all the benefits of banking local.